Now, I'm honored to introduce our keynote speaker for the night. The gentleman who will be sharing with us tonight is an author, recording artist, passionate worship leader, motivational speaker, national pro-life speaker, and the founder of Broken Not Dead Ministries. He's the author of a book entitled The Journey, Brokenness to Wholeness, in which he shares his amazing story, which you'll hear tonight. Despite the brokenness he's experienced, he travels the country with Broken Not Dead, sharing a message of hope and restoration for the broken. He currently lives in Tennessee with his wife Rachel and their 3 beautiful daughters, Isabella, Eliana, and Cadence. Please join me in welcoming Steventhen, Holland.
Good evening. Man, I'm so excited to be here, all the way from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was telling Tammy, I just want to thank New Life for just the hospitality. I feel like I'm at home. And I know some of you guys, it's okay to laugh tonight. I know some of you are like, man, he's so country. I'm going to be saying y'all probably a couple times. And I think you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy, right? But I'm so blessed to be here again. My name is Steventhen. I'm literally the only one in the world, according to Google.com, that with that name. And there's a whole story that goes behind it, which I'm going to have a blessing to share tonight. But before I share my story, I want to just say I'm so thankful for this organization. It is a beacon of light and hope in your community. I hope that every single one of you all in here, I know some of you may not know everything that they do, but I'm telling you that you are so blessed to have New Life in this area, being a light into the darkness. And there is a battle that's going on, not against flesh and blood all the time, but there's an evilness that we are constantly battling every day, some that we see and some that we don't. And I'll share a little bit more on that later. But again, so my daughter, or my wife, Rachel, and I have been married 13 years. We have 3 girls. Like Mike stated, they're treasures for me. My youngest one just got her hair cut for the first time at 6 years old, and I kind of missed that, but we were afraid she's going to lose her curls. One interesting fact is, obviously, you look at me, this kind of makes sense, but I have 2. My oldest and youngest is blonde hair, blue eyes, and my middle one is dark hair and dark eyes. Don't know how that happens, but God just kind of has a sense of humor. And I told my wife, we struck out for the boy when we tried for the 3rd time, and I was like, but I could adopt and get a little brown boy, okay? So make it happen. But so why? Of course, again, for me, brokenness is a part of my life. I travel all over the country with my story and with music and creating a platform for people to say, you know what? I know you're broken, but understand that brokenness is not dead, that you still have purpose, that you have life. And I want to encourage you to live it to the fullest. And I would say, as a man of faith, to just glorify God with every breath and every heartbeat that you have. And so for me, as I share, that's where I'm coming from. It's an honor and a blessing, and I get to glorify God with the story that He has given me. So what is that story? When I was 8 years old, I was at school, and I had a couple of friends, I'll put air quotes around that. They looked at me, and they said, man, you are so weird. I was like, okay. I already knew that, but why would you say that? What do you mean? They said, have you not looked around? Your entire family's white, and you're not. I'm 8 years old, and I look at my hand, and I'm like, they're not lying. They're telling the truth. I'm brown. I had a freak out moment. What is going on? What happened? I'm 8 years old, and to be honest with you, it hurt, right? Because, as an adolescent, elementary, middle school, high school, you just want to what? Fit in. You want to be liked. And I didn't understand why they're calling. And then, of course, I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? So I get home, and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed with my mom, and she sits down next to me, and she says, all right, son, something's off, something's wrong, and you're going to tell me what it is. And I'm like, Mom, I don't want to have this conversation. I just want to go to sleep, right? But you know how mamas are? They just have this, superpower that they can, see into the depths of your soul, And she would not let me go to sleep. And finally, I burst out in tears. And by the way, I'm a big teddy bear, so I will cry tonight, and probably you will too, just so you know. But I'm sitting there, and I'm weeping. I'm crying. I'm telling her what happened at school. And, Mom, I don't understand. And she said, okay. She puts her arm around me and she says, son, I want to tell you something. We're about to have a conversation, but I want to tell you something before I say a word. I love you. You're my son. You've always been my son, and you will always be my son. And I said, okay, Mom, what's going on? And she says, well, hang on a second. So she walks over to the closet. She reaches up in the top of this closet, and in a box, she pulls the box down, and inside the box, there's a folder. It's a 3-ring binder, and it has 8 pages of typewriter paperwork in it from 1982. I was born March 31st, 1982, and it's a lot of broken names, a lot of just small pieces of information. And she said, when you were 7 days old, we brought you into our family as a foster child. This is all that we know. It's 8 pages of typewriter paperwork, and then what you see behind this, pretty thick, is journaling that I did about your life and our experience with you for the first 5 years of your life. And she said, I knew that this moment was going to happen, and I wanted to try to give you as much as I could as a mother to help you kind of piece together your story. And I'll just be honest with you guys. People ask me all the time, how did you feel? I was broken. It hurt, right? Because I'm 8 years old and I'm trying to comprehend this, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're not my blood. You're not my family. And then I'll say this, that quickly after a month or two turned into, or actually probably quicker than that, turned into like, wait a minute, I'm so loved and I'm so blessed. So like, why am I questioning? But that still didn't stop me questioning things like why. Anybody ever been there? Like, God, why? I don't understand. Why would a mother not want her son? I just don't understand that, right? I'm trying to process that. And I'll say this, I am a man of faith, and that was the first time in my life as an 8-year-old child that I remember being broken for the first time. And I had nobody could reach into that pain, into that brokenness, except for God himself. So about 3, 4, 5 months later, somewhere in there, we were at a revival. Anybody ever been to a revival? A revival, one of those. And I was sitting in a pew about 7 rows deep, and I just, in that moment, I just start weeping, crying again. There's a theme here. And I said, Lord, I need you. I'm hurting, I'm broken, and I have nowhere else to go, so I'm going to run. So I started moving. My mom's like, everything okay? You got to go to the restroom? I'm like, no, I got to go to Jesus. And I walk out this aisle, and I walk by myself. I fall on my knees, and I'm like, Lord, take this. I need you, take this. So in that moment, Jesus became not just a name that I knew, but a relationship that I had. And I tease, it's actually not a shock because I had a drug problem growing up. Some of y'all can relate to this. I was drug in and drug out every time the church doors were open, Sunday, Wednesday. My grandmother, we called her Mimi. Her name's Fanny Jones. And I tried to get one of my daughters named Fanny, but my wife wouldn't go for it. So Isabel actually was her middle name, so I got the middle name Isabella for my daughter. But she was my Sunday school teacher, and this woman used to hit me over the head with the Bible because I wasn't the best behaved kid, and I thought she thought that would work, so evidently it did. But I came to the foot of Jesus with my brokenness, and it's been a journey, right? Doesn't mean that the brokenness isn't still there, and there isn't things that I still have to deal with, but from that moment on, he's got me, right? So I go from that moment. I'm processing at middle school. I'm going to give you the fast version because I don't have a ton of time. But I have a book outside if you would like to get all the details. You can help feed my family for $15, okay? And I'll even sign it for you, okay? A little icing on the cake. But middle school, high school was tough. It's 1980s, early 80s. I'm in the South, Chattanooga, Tennessee area. Predominantly a white community, which I love white communities and casual people. But I'm just saying. I was different. But here's the thing, I didn't want to be called different anymore. I didn't like that. So what I did is, I'm going to outrun anybody that I have to get in front of in sports. So I became Earthquake in 7th grade. I was 200 none of your business pounds, okay? And if you want to say something, you won't say it but once, right? I had some anger built up, some frustration built up because I was trying to find, what had happened was Jesus, I love this, Jesus plus nothing equals everything is what it should be, but I was putting something in that nothing spot, and it was sports, or it was relationships, or it was friendships, and it quickly became sports for me is where I'm going to find my identity and not be called different anymore. So baseball, wrestling, football, I quickly gained some notoriety, and I shifted from earthquake to freight train. I was 200 and a little bit more than a business pounds, fullback, middle linebacker. Some of y'all, I'm going to get ran out of the room because he played for a different team, but y'all remember the bus? Jerome Bettis. Some of you men in the room might remember that. Ladies too, football fans. But I was kind of that guy, the big guy, but I outran everybody, just kind of a freak of nature. But 1998, I had 140 yards in the first half of the football game as a fullback, okay? Had a great game. And I was getting all these scholarships, and I had all these plans. Anybody ever had plans? But then God, right? All of a sudden, I get hit in the back. From that hit, I actually had 3 herniated discs and a pinched nerve, and had to have surgery at 17 years old. I was laying up in a bed, just feeling sorry for myself, and this thought came back up. God, why? Right? Same thing I was asking when I was 8 years old and not understanding his plan. God, I had plans. I had dreams of running through a checkered end zone and hearing a hound dog. Yeah, we're not in the South. It's okay. Tennessee, okay? I was getting some scholarship offers, and I was so excited. And God, but why are you taking this away? I don't understand. So I'm laying in bed for 6 weeks, and I'm hurting, and the Lord takes me to a passage of Scripture. It says Romans 12:1 and 2. In view of God's mercy, I offer my body as a living sacrifice, for this is true worship. Right? Okay, wait a minute. I'm laying in bed. I had to be cut open 6 or 7 inches, feeling sorry for myself. God, wait a minute. this is a big ask, right? Like the body, like all of me, I have to give as a sacrifice. And he's like, if you give it to me, I'm going to bless it. I'm going to honor it. Watch me work. That's what I felt in my spirit. So I said, okay, Lord. Got up out of that bed over 6 weeks of trial and actually got into pretty good shape. I stepped onto a college campus in Bristol, Tennessee, King University, where I actually had the opportunity to I earned a scholarship playing baseball. I played for 5 years, and I just happened to meet this really attractive volleyball player from Tampa, Florida. She became my wife, and I literally married up. She was a middle, 5'11", and I'm 5, none of your business, okay? But I married up in a lot more ways than just in stature or physique. But she's a wonderful mother, wonderful wife, the love of my life, 13 years. I don't know how I'd do life without her. Godly woman, and I'm like, hey, you want to go over across the country and share hope and encourage people? She's like, I'll go where God leads us. I trust you. That's an awesome woman of God, and she left Tampa, Florida because see here, I want to share this because I think it's important. Because see, I've only known one earthly father, and he's no longer with us. He passed away 5 years ago to Alzheimer's. He died not knowing who I was. And when he got really sick, the Lord just kind of spoke to my heart. We were comfortable in Tampa, Florida. I was leading 5 worship services a week at a large church, and my family was taken care of. We owned a house. We had 2 cars, all this stuff. And I said, hey, babe, the Lord's telling me I might need to go back and love on my dad. What do you think? We'll move in the basement of my parents' house, and it only has 1 window. And she's from Tampa, Florida, y'all, 20 minutes from the beach, so Florida girl. And she said, yes, let's do it. And there's a picture in my book outside where my dad, he worked in the coal mines for most of his life. I thought he was black most of my life, actually, because he'd come in but he would bathe, and when we interviewed my family for the book, there's a picture in there that's become such a priceless treasure for me. But he bathed, and he's laying on bed, and he's chestless. His shirt, or he has a chest. His shirt is off, and he's holding me, chest to chest. My shirt's off, heart to heart. His son, and he holds me. And by the way, this man also, just like my family, my mother, they brought me in at 7 days old. Within 6 months, the state of Tennessee decided they were going to remove me from the home because I was biracial in a white home, and they felt like it would be better for me to be in a different home. And this family was like, wait a minute, This baby came to us on the same bottle of formula they left the hospital with, and he literally could not suck a bottle, and we squeezed milk into his mouth, and we literally took his little legs and stretched them out to get his muscles working. And you said he was going to probably die, but he's still here. And we he's our baby. Like, you're not taking our baby, right? My dad even put a gun by the door. Like, we're in the South, y'all, right? And he's like, this is our baby. That same man holding me heart to heart. So you know how much of an honor it was for me to, you know what, I walked away from the job, comfort, to say this man deserves for me to go back and love on him as my dad. I went back and we loved on him for a year and 14 days before he passed away. I set up that last night of his life, and he's sitting there, death curdles. And it was hard. But it's also been one of the most beautiful things that I've ever been able to be a part of in my life, because I was able to hold him like he held me. On my way in, I got to hold him on his way out. And I wouldn't trade that for the world. It was an honor to do it. I did some crazy stuff that I never thought I'd be having to do for my dad. But it was worth it. So this family, this love that was poured out on me as we're in college, when I'm thinking about starting a family of my own, I've seen nothing but love and nothing, it's just, literally, I was not only that family's baby, but I was the community's baby. I was the church's baby. Literally, I had 800, 700 petition letters that were written on the behalf of this family to keep me in the home. So literally, this community, and this is what I love about a room full of people, that's an organization that fights for life, and this is an army. Like, how much could we do if we stand together and lock arms for the sake of life? So I'm honored to stand here and share my story, because I've seen it happen, right? So 800 petition letters that I still have today. One day I'm going to put them together and do something, right? Maybe book number 2, I don't know. But it's this family, community came together to fight for this little boy, and this family to keep this little boy. So my wife, when we met in college, we decided very early, we'd been through the dating game, and we were done with that. Like, if we're going to date, it's meant to be, right? That's the next step. So we start dating, and early on, I finished college, and we were engaged for 2 years. Woo! I promised her dad I'd wait for her to finish school. Man. Anyways, we waited, and we got married in Tampa, Florida in 2006. We started a family early, right? And because she's been dreaming of being a mom since she was seven years old. And so she gets pregnant very quickly within a couple of months. And then 8 weeks into the pregnancy, she had a miscarriage, and we lost our first baby. She passed the baby, actually lost the baby at home alone. I was actually at church hanging out with a bunch of middle schoolers. That's why I'm bald and fluffy. Years of that. But she lost our baby at home alone, and I'm as a young father and soon to be dad. How do we walk through that brokenness? What words do I say to her? Man, it was hard. And then doctors were telling us, you need to wait, and we waited like a month, and then she was pregnant in November, and we have her. Yeah, it worked out. That's our 12-year-old Isabella. Then our third pregnancy, 10 weeks into the pregnancy, we actually have another miscarriage. So we've lost 2 babies. This time she had to have a D&C, where had to go in and have a procedure to remove a lifeless baby from the womb, which was another set of brokenness and another challenge that we had to face. But then God blessed us with 2 more daughters. And but I want to take you back to that 4th pregnancy with Eliana. It was 2009. And she was set to be born in December, and this is July of 2009, and I was youth pastoring in a church in Tampa, Florida. We were in a 975 square foot apartment, getting ready to bring our second child into the world, and the Spirit of the Lord just came on me, and this is what I heard: it's time. And I'm like, Lord, I need more information than that. And I just kind of pressed in for a few days and sought the Lord, and I'm asking, what's that mean? And he said, it's time to look for your mom. And I said, Lord, but there's middle school. I had thoughts of doing that, and it's just, there were all these roadblocks. I just felt like maybe, she's got a family of her own. I don't want to mess that up, and maybe they don't know about me. And I had this fear, and And just the timing was not God's timing. And then high school, I had multiple times. In college, I had multiple times. Because, see, I didn't know my race. I didn't know my ethnicity. I didn't know my medical history, nothing. But here's what was happening. The devil was beating me up on the inside and saying, you know why these babies are dying and losing? Because of you. Because you don't know your medical history. Maybe there's stuff you could be doing, and it's because of how you got brought into the world, right? And which I don't know how I got brought into the world at that time. But so the Lord says, it's time to look for your mom. So you guys remember when I was 8 years old and that box in the top of the closet and Mom brought out and I had this 8 pages of typewriter paperwork and this journal? I found that. I dug it out. And in this box, in this folder, I get it out and I'm looking. And I'm like, okay, where could I go to get some information? Google. There's some good stuff on Google. And not so good stuff on Google. I get this paperwork out, 8 pages, broken names, a lot of like mismatched information, very limited. And I said, okay, God. So I start name searching on Google. And just to speed this up, within 3 days, I come across a website for a man named Steve Holt. And I'm like, this is really weird. Why? Because this is a magician and ventriloquist. They talk with dummies, okay? They saw people in half. It was just weird. I'm like, why is this guy's website coming up on a name search? And then I look at his family bio, and every single name that's on that paper is in his bio online. And there was one specific name, Glenda Sue Holt. You know who she is? My mom. So I was like, this can't be a coincidence. So I sent him an email, and this is what I wrote. I think I'm your long-lost nephew. Send. Right? And right there in that moment, y'all, by the grace of God, I actually get to connect online with my birth uncle. I'm 27 years old. He never knew that I existed. He almost had a heart attack at home when he read this email, which was very short. So he calls immediately because I put my phone number on there. And I'm like, it's 1 a.m, dude. I'm not having this conversation at 1 a.m. So I went back to sleep. I called him at 7. I was like, ha, gotcha, wake you up, right? Listen, we got to laugh because we're all going to be crying here in a moment, I promise you. So we talk on the phone for, it seemed like days, but a couple hours. It's just very, through tears, and we're sharing and catching up. We decide, hey, let's meet in person. So I flew to Spartanburg, South Carolina, where he lived, from Tampa, Florida. We spent 2 days together just weeping and hugging, and it was a beautiful thing. But this is what he tells me in that time. He said, when your mom, my sister, she's 18 years old at the time, and he's like, let me tell you this first. We actually have 6 of us, 6 siblings, and all of us are mentally handicapped except for me. And he says, our parents died early, and we got thrown into orphanages and foster care system, and a few of us got adopted that people actually wanted us, and most of us didn't. And the ones that, like our siblings that were really bad, mentally handicapped, he said, I have a brother that's been institutionalized since he was 18 months old, never learned to feed himself. And he's like, your mom only functioned as an 11-year-old mentally. But 18 years old, she's in a group home, and they set her up with a work program, and she would walk to work and walk back home. One night, when she was walking back home, she got raped by 5 men. From that rape, she comes back to the facility. Over time, they realize that she's pregnant with child, and they say, well, okay, you're homeless, basically. You have no job, you have no money, you have no family support, so probably the best option for you is abortion. So 18-year-old mentally handicapped woman, only functioning as an 11-year-old, said, you know what, my son has value. I think I'm going to fight for his life because he's worth it. So she ran away. The last time that my uncle had even thought about me, I was in the womb when she came to his house seeking refuge. She was there for a week. He was in the shower getting ready to go to a church event, and she disappeared, and he didn't know what happened to her for 10 years, so he never knew what happened to the child she was carrying. So I got to share with him what happened. She ran away. She made it to a women's shelter in Chattanooga, Tennessee. From there, She got away from that home somehow and wound up in a cardboard box behind an old grocery store in a little town called Whitwell, Tennessee. If you're from there, it's Whitwell. There just happened to be a family there that had 4 kids of their own, and they had had a miscarriage 2 years prior to that, and they started foster parenting, had 5 foster kids, 4 kids of their own, but they were longing for one more little boy. And it just so happened that when that 7-day-old little boy got dropped off at Human Services, they said yes to the phone call. And I've been there 37 years. All right, but that's not even the best part. So my uncle shares with me, and he said, okay, I had to meet you in person before I said this because I wanted to know what kind of man you were before I put you in front of my sister. I was like, what? She's alive. She's 5 hours south of where we stand. Do you want to meet her? You know what I said? It's time. That's what God was speaking to my heart. So I jumped in. Well, I wanted to go then, but it was 8 o'clock at night. He wouldn't do it. But we jumped in a car that morning, drove 5 hours, and I get to meet my birth mom for the first time when I'm 27 years old. I got to hug her and tell her I loved her. And just for the sake of time, he did a magic show she's like in a nursing home, men on one side, women on the other. They had a common area. He did the magic show. We were going to go back and do the private kind of introduction in her bedroom, and God just took over. So tonight, I'm going to give you the pleasure of meeting my birth mom, Glenda Sue Holt, because I happen to have a video camera when we went down there 10 years ago.
I love my sunshine, and I love my life, and I love all of y'all, and they'll forgive me. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right, well, we hope you enjoy our magic show and our song and dance. All right?
We got a song.
And Stephen's going to sing for us.
I got a song. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved.
Oh, it's like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
I want to show y'all how good God is. Glenda, you stay right here. Come here. I wasn't going to do it this way, but we are.
All right.
Glenda Sue, you know I love you.
I love you.
You have been through a whole lot. And you've been the best girl you could be for 46 years.
Yes, sir.
And you had a little boy when you were about 18. And you missed that little boy.
Yes, sir.
His name was Steventhen William, but he has a different last name. The family that you gave him to take care of him, their last name was Holland. So his name is Steventhen William Holland. And this is him. This is your boy. He's a good boy. Let me you are his real mama. And you've been the best mama you could be to me.
I'm so happy you made the choice that you did. I love you too. Yes, he does.
We have pictures for you. He brought pictures for you. He has made a scrapbook for you. And he has, in the scrapbook, he has pictures of him. Remember the picture you carried of the little boy? You thought was your son, but wasn't really your son. But now you have real baby pictures of him. And you have pictures of the Holland family, Mr. and Miss Holland, that raised him. He has a lot of family, and they love you. They've always loved you.
Son, I love you from the bottom of my heart, and I love you deeply in my heart. And I want to say I'm glad that you're here today. And Mama loves you, and I have from this first time that you was in my belly. I sung to you, I read nursery rhymes to you, I remember all that. And this is your mama right here, and I love you, my son. And I want to show you something that I've learned. I love Jesus, and I want you to know that I love my family. And I know now I have a real big family that I can look forward to seeing.
That's the true hero of the story. That's my hero, my mom. Not only do I have that hero, but also my adoptive family that saved my life, right? That saw value in this one child that they were longing for. And all of it is in the midst of brokenness and stuff that the world would say, you know, I should be a statistic according to society, right? But God had a bigger plan. I always make it, yes. I usually always make it through that video without shedding a tear until she says one thing: I love Jesus. You know why? This is a title on book, because one day all this brokenness will be made whole. Because she loves Jesus, I have no doubt she has a relationship with him, and I do too. One day all this brokenness is going to be made whole. And that's what I love about New Life, that it's pointing, the only source of hope that we truly have in this world is Christ. And I love that it's wrapped in that. They pray every morning, you know, over the sinners and the lives that be changed. And then, so I just want to share this, and then I'm done. My mom is still alive. She's 56 today. This was 10 years ago. She's a ward of the state of Georgia. She lives in a state mental hospital about an hour and a half south of Atlanta, Georgia. And this is how big God is. He cares about every single one of us. And her life has so much purpose. I hope that her story in this video goes viral, right? But not for the sake of anything other than his glory. But I see her about 3 or 4 times a year. She's met all 3 of her granddaughters. They call her Gigi, Grandma Glenda. But it's hard. My girls are afraid when they go in there. It's understaffed, over-medicated. There's war veterans in there that sadly are, reliving the war and things like that, and they're yelling out and they're cursing, and some of them can be violent, not just them, but others, and it rips my heart out of my chest every time I have to leave her in that place. But let me show you how big God is. The last time that we took my family down and my girls, I take them once a year because I want them to know. I want them to love their grandmother and know what the sacrifice that they did for their dad. She soiled herself while we were there. And the nurses took her back and cleaned her up, and we were standing out in the hallway, and the nurses came out, and they said, "Glenda, you sure do have some beautiful granddaughters, you know that?" And I said, "I know." And I said, "Can I share something with you? This woman that you had to change her diaper, these little girls wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for her. And that's my hero, that you had to change her diaper. And I just want you to know that I love you and I care about you for loving on my mom." They just started weeping. See, there's people that are fighting still for my mom today. There's people that's fighting for me, and there's people that are fighting for life. So I want to share this scripture, and I'm done. Ephesians 6. "Finally, be strong in the Lord, and in the strength of his might, put on the whole armor of God, so you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." And I'll skip down just a bit, and it says, "To the end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints, and also for me, that words may be given to me in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may declare in boldness as I ought to speak. If life is worth fighting for, that's my challenge. As the evening goes on, you're going to have opportunities to step in the gap and fight. And we need to stand boldly, because it's not against flesh and blood. There's an evil presence that's trying to take out. I don't have time, but if you look in Scripture and you see in Scripture, like if you want to take out a generation of people that can't honor God, go after the voiceless, right? The helpless. So my encouragement is it's worth the fight. And if it's worth the fight, we're going to give time, we're going to give talents, wherever you can serve, volunteer, give of your resources and treasures. And I'm just so honored to be here with you and champion life, arm in arm, hand in hand with my friends at New Life Family Services. God bless you.
Wow. Thank you, Steventhen, for sharing your story with us. What a testimony of hope and restoration, and really a tangible display of God's faithfulness and loving kindness in the midst of a broken world. So thank you.